Mighty God of the sun, bountiful goddess of our orchards, accept our sacrifice and make our blossoms fruit. Hear ye the words of the Lord! Awake, ye heathens, and howl! It is the Lord who hath laid waste your orchards! It is he who reverence the sacrifice.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Grosso with the Indie Spiritualist podcast. It has been a moment since I've done a new episode. Last one was, I believe, in the fall of 2021 with my dear, dear heart friends, Alex and Allison Gray, who are also, they're visionary artists. They've done artwork for bands like Tool. They did a beautiful, beautiful piece of art for my teacher Ram Dass. They've done work for the Beastie Boys and other iconic human beings. But this is my first podcast back. It's been a minute. I've gone through life. I've been being a human, and I'm so excited to have my guest, Ben Scrivens. Is that correct, Ben?
That's correct. Yep.
Ben Scrivens of Fright-Rags. Fright-Rags. I love Fright-Rags. My mom loves and hates Fright-Rags, like I was telling you before. My apartment, my dresser drawers, are just adorned, and stickers, and they're adorned with all things Fright-Rags. So pretty much when I see a post on social media from Fright-Rags, it's shut up and take my money. So I love you guys for that. We have a kinship in this horror thing. But what we're going to talk about today is horror, mental health, being a human being, and where it all connects. Because there is a connection, I believe, and I think Ben might agree with that. But before we do that, I would like to read the bio from Fright-Rags' website about Ben and the team and the business. And if you are a fan of horror, and not just horror, because you guys also do other things, right? Do you do Star Wars stuff too? I saw.
We don't do well, that was a parody Star Wars thing we did with Zombie Wars, but we do some horror adjacent things. You know, we've done some pop culture stuff. We actually have a non-horror release coming up in this summer, which is nothing related to horror movies. So yeah, we dabble in some other pop culture stuff.
Okay, but horror is the ticket. And
oh yeah,
Michael Myers is the man, and Halloween and John 100%. Carpenter are God. Okay, so the bio for Fright-Rags. Technically, Fright-Rags started in 2003, but the reality is its beginnings go back even further to October 31st, 1981, in the back of a family-owned deli. Dude, when I was reading this last night, I was like, immediately, I'm like, please say something about Halloween, Michael Myers, John Carpenter, please.
Oh yeah.
But dude, my heart burst last night. Let me continue. I was 4 years old, and my parents picked me and my siblings up from trick-or-treating to go to their friend's place for a small Halloween get-together. Our friends lived behind the store they owned, and we made our way through the deli and into what was their living room. Their kids were much older than me, as were my siblings, so they all ran off together to play. I contently sat down and counted my evening haul. Once I was done, I was bored, so I approached my mom, tugged on her shirt, and pleaded with her to go home. They were having a good time playing cards and definitely not ready to leave, so she just looked at me and said, "Go watch some TV, dear." I walked over to the family TV set, turned it on, and sat down about 10 inches away from the screen. That's when I heard it. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry. The screen was black and the music came on. Then the pumpkin and that music. I couldn't stop watching. Then the words, John Carpenter's Halloween. There I sat for the next 2 hours, approximately 10 inches from the screen, and completely mesmerized. The funny thing is, I don't remember being scared, just completely taken in by it all. Once it was done, I wanted more. Thus began my love affair with horror, which continues to this day. Ben, you are a man after my own heart. There is one more section I do want to read quickly, open for business, a little more about Fright-Rags. It says, fast forward to 2003. I had been at my graphic design job for a year and had some creative steam to let off. I spent a lot of my free time conversing with other horror fans on various forums. Oh, I relate to this. This was way before Facebook and even MySpace. I was talking to somebody, I used to tour in punk and hardcore bands, MapQuest, printing directions.
Oh, yeah.
Maps.
Yeah.
It was a thing. Yeah. And I noticed this really cool community of fan-made props and art. Some amazing things were being made. Freddy gloves, Michael Myers masks, Jason masks, etc. It sparked something in me that wants to create, but I didn't have those kinds of skills. I was, however, a graphic designer. Also, I'd had an affinity for interesting t-shirts since I was a kid. It was my souvenir of choice on vacations, and I'd always look for different ones that represented things I liked, such as skateboarding, BMX bikes, movie characters, etc. Then I got to thinking, I don't really have any horror shirts. I combed the internet to see what kind of horror shirts were out there, and while I found some, they weren't my style. So I started coming up with my own designs. Once I had a few done, I talked to a friend of mine, Justin Mabry, who runs me to, is this right? Who runs me to share them on his forum.
Oh, he wanted me to share them. Yeah, I must have
Okay. Thank you. Which
Yeah.
I was an active member of. The feedback was not only instant, but overwhelmingly positive. This part cracks me up. Shut up and take my money.
Mhm.
So over the course of the Labor Day weekend in 2003, I came up with the name, basic logo, and website. Then I plunked down $600, way more than I could afford, on my very first run of shirts and held my breath. That Friday, September 2nd, 2003, I received my first ever order. I was in business. Since then, our focus has always been on making the most kick-ass t-shirts and backing them with the best possible service. To do that, it takes a team effort, and I've been extremely fortunate to work not only with amazing artists, but the people who come to work here every day. Together, we put our heart and soul into everything we do and are grateful to you for giving us the opportunity to do what we do. Thank you, and stay tuned. We have such shirts to show you. Nice Hellraiser nod right there. Man, so Ben, where do we begin? There's so much to unpack. Let's start back as a kiddo. So A Necessary Death, which you're so generously going to write an endorsement for, if you like what you read. In the intro or the preface, I write Horror and Healing, it's called. And I talk about being a kiddo in Milford, Connecticut. And I would I would sleep over my friends' houses, Adam Carmen, Brian Rizzo. We were like 7, 8, 9. And after their parents went to bed, we'd go up, put on HBO, and see whatever horror movies we could find. Or also, I don't know if this was a coast to coast thing, but WTXX Channel 20 had Spine Tinglers. That's where I first saw like Jaws, Misery. And then there was also USA Up All Night with Rhonda Shears.
Yeah. Rhonda Shear and Gilbert Gottfried usually.
And Gilbert Gottfried, right. So that's kind of where my horror started, my love affair with it. It was like, I'm being bad, I'm being naughty, I'm doing something I shouldn't do. The excitement, all of that. Like, tell me about oh, I just noticed your shirt too. I love that shirt. Yeah, tell me a bit about yourself and your horror origins.
So as you read, Halloween was my first horror movie experience ever, being 4 years old. And this was 1981. So it was the very beginning of the video rental days. And where I am from and still am at Rochester, New York, was actually a test ground for VHS and Beta. So they were both here in the city. It was one of the cities they tried to kind of see which one was preferred. And my parents ended up buying a Betamax, which clearly lost the wars. But as a kid, it was we had, 4 or 5 mom and pop stores, probably within a 8-9 mile radius.
Wow.
That we would go to, and they had both Beta and VHS. Some of them were better with Betas than VHS. And I just remember going and looking at the covers of everything and just wanting to find a movie that was like Halloween, where it was somebody wearing a mask, killing a bunch of kids. Like literally that was my criteria. I did watch other horror as it came, around, but I just was stuck on slashers for a long time during my early childhood.
Right.
And then by the time I was around 9 years old, which is kind of funny to think about. I mean, I have 2 kids, and to think about them doing these things, but like there was one mom and pop store that was almost a mile away from my house. It was in between my house and where I would eventually go to high school. And we would ride our bikes up there. And it's funny because at certain times, I wasn't allowed to leave the neighborhood, but I could go up to the video store. I remember being 9 years old and wanting and always renting horror movies, and the person behind the counter saying, "Look, you're too young, kid. Like, you can't rent this." I'm like, "It's okay with my parents." And they would call my parents, and my parents would say it was okay. Until eventually my parents were like, "Can we just sign the back of his card to give him permission to rent?" Like, they were almost getting sick of getting called.
Right.
I'm the youngest of 4, mind you. So, I mean, it's I was sort of like, Ben's off somewhere doing whatever he wants,
Right.
And so I would be, it's my parents were usually really cool about it. There were a couple experiences growing up. I remember being 10, and my friend and we could not wait to watch Child's Play that just come out on VHS. This is probably 1988, I guess, because we were 10, 11 years older at the time, maybe 11. Right. I just remember the night that my mom drove us up to the store. We jumped out, we grabbed Child's Play, but we hadn't seen Hellraiser yet. And we're like, "Oh, we got to get this. It'll be a double feature," right? We get home, and again, this is back when they started doing like the audience reactions for previews. So like it made you see what other people were seeing, and it was like, "Oh my God, they're so scared. They're so scared that this has got to be a scary movie." And it worked. I was 11 years old. So we said, we will watch Child's Play second. We got to watch Hellraiser first. And my mom goes, "I want to watch one of these with you. I want to kind of see what you're watching here." Because my parents weren't into it, and neither were my older brothers, sort of. And my older sister wasn't into it. I remember seeing a couple movies with my older brothers. They would take me to see movies when I was too young, but they weren't like into horror. Like I was the one getting the Fingorias. I was the one making the fake blood and doing the latex and stuff. So I remember my mom sitting there with me and my friend watching Hellraiser at 11 years old, 10, 11 years old. And she's sitting there going, "Why do you like this crap?" And meanwhile, my friend and I, our minds are completely melting in front of the screen because we had never seen anything like that before. But she didn't stop us, and she got up and left, and then we watched Child's Play, which is not a movie you want to follow up Hellraiser with. Like, they should have swapped them. I mean, it's like making a playlist. Like, that's not the order, but we didn't.
Right.
And so they were always supportive enough. And I remember my parents later on, after I started Fright-Rags, actually admitted to me that they were a little bit worried about me growing up. And then they realized that I liked the magic behind it, the special effects. Like, look, I can make it look like my arm is being torn off. Look, I can make it look like my head's coming off or something like that. And that's a tribute to my parents for them to say, "Hey, I'm not sure about this," but they didn't try to intervene and try to block me from watching these movies. Or, I mean, they had rules and stuff, and it wasn't like I could just watch anything or do whatever the heck I wanted. I don't want to make it sound like that, but they were very lenient with me and allowed me to explore this.
Yeah.
And in doing so, I think it allowed me to just figure it all out. And in terms of my fandom, in terms of what I liked, what I didn't like, I didn't feel like I had this pressure from my parents saying, "You can't do that, you can't do that." Which probably would have made me want to watch it more, of course. So I think they, to their credit, they really kind of kept an eye on things. And, as I got older, it was, me and another friend of mine in the neighborhood. He was the only other one that really loved horror movies. There was a couple other friends that liked them enough. And I was always the one like, hey, let's watch these at my sleepover. Let's watch these now. Let's go see this. But my friend Tim was really the one that he and I would go up every day and during the summer. I mean, it was a daily thing. We would ride our bikes to the store, get a movie, come back, watch it, go in the pool, read Calvin and Hobbes, break for dinner, and then the next day repeat. So it was just a constant with us. So it was nice to have that camaraderie with somebody,
Definitely.
but I definitely felt, I don't want to say alone, but I did not feel in terms of my love of horror like it was something that was widely accepted.
Yeah.
And this is pre-internet clearly. So it was something that I could read about in Fangoria, but I could never go to a Fangoria convention in New York or Chicago. Like that wasn't even on. I would never even think to ask my parents to do that. Like it was so beyond me. So I didn't really know what it was like to be around other horror fans other than basically my one friend. I had no idea what that was like until the internet came about, and
Yeah.
that changed everything for me.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that childhood where I got to hang out with a bunch of horror fans and go to conventions and see people when basically autographs were free and all that stuff. I just didn't have that. I'm up in Rochester. I mean, that's like 6 hours away from the city and anywhere else. So that was it. So basically it was just, renting movies, wanting to make a horror movie. I loved Halloween, so I know we'll get into that, but Halloween was really the gold standard for me.
Yeah.
I loved Friday the 13th because they came out every year. It was great to see a new one every year. And all I really had was Halloween 1 and 2 for years. Again, back when I was a kid, didn't like part 3 until I got older, but which is an amazing movie. And then
It
I got to
is.
see
Yes.
4 in the theater, and which was amazing. And that was my first Halloween experience in the theater. So that was awesome.
Hmm.
So yeah, those are, I know it's tangential there, but it's a lot of different experiences as a kid.
Amazing. There's a million different ways I want to go with you on that. This is like one of probably like 50 podcasts we could do together. Um, all right. So yeah, very similar with the outcast, if I heard you right, kind of like I didn't have a horror community either, like as a youngin. Though I do have some pictures I'm very fond of when I was a kiddo. Um, I think I was Freddy Krueger. My mom put like some oatmeal on my face, and I went to Toys R Us and got like the Freddy
Yeah.
glove.
Yeah. Yeah.
My friend Adam got the Jason mask, and I don't think anybody ever did Michael Myers. I did later. Like I went and spent like $50 on the Halloween 4 Michael Myers mask. Like
Mm.
obviously there's many different Myers masks. Um, but just that in and of itself, like the smiles that we're both like having right now as we talk about that, like the connection with our inner child, and to me, there's one of the last chapters in Necessary Death is about Michael Myers, and it explores Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, and
Mm.
our shadow selves. And
Mhm.
I've always kind of I've seen the intersection there between those two. I, for many years, had a recurring nightmare, which was equal parts amazing and terrifying, where Michael Myers was trying to kill me. So I was like, I had my own Halloween movies. He never
Mhm.
got me. But it was about like 10 years ago they stopped, and I missed that. But
Yeah.
that was shadow stuff that I had been going through. So Let's let's see. There's so much to talk about. I did make some notes. I liked, all right, so talking about like community, which is a big thing. I'm an introverted person. It's hard for me to reach out to people. It's something I've been working on as a person that struggles with my own mental health issues. I have major depressive disorder. I'm a person in recovery from alcohol. It can be hard to reach out, as an introvert. Myers-Briggs, I'm an INFJ. But so, what I noticed, part of the inspiration for Necessary Death was that as I got older, like young adult, or not even, let's say like 30s, I started going to horror conventions. Um, I lived in Connecticut, not that far from Rochester. I would go up to Worcester often to the Rock and Shock festivals. I was very, very honored to interview George Romero in his hotel room, which was amazing. I interviewed him and for about half an hour. And then after that, I got to interview Danny Trejo right after Machete had come out. That was an interesting experience. I went from Romero's hotel room downstairs across the street to an Uno pizzeria where I met Danny. And we're sitting there and we had 10 minutes scheduled. And Danny's also a person in recovery from alcohol. He's like 50 years sober or something. It's amazing. But I said to him, I said, thank you for taking the time to do this. I know you're busy. I really appreciate it. I put the recorder down. I said, I know you guys get asked a lot of the same questions all the time, so I try not to do that. I don't want to waste your time. I value it, and I want to ask you some outside the box things. And he said, okay, that's cool. And at the Uno pizzerias, when you sit down, they have the utensils already there, and they have these like steak knives. And he picks one up, and he looks at me, and he goes, and if I don't like it, he goes like that at me, and he smiles and laughs, and I go, I'm laughing because it's funny, but it's Danny Trejo.
Mm-hmm.
It's Machete,
Yeah.
Blood in, blood out, Danny Trejo. We ended up talking for like an hour and a half. His
Wow.
agent kept calling. He has a son that's into punk rock, and we just talked about a lot of cool stuff. Fast forward about 8 years later, give or take, another Rock and Shock. I got to interview in the same hotel, different room, Ken Foray from Dawn of the Dead. What a beautiful guy. And he's into yoga. He also, my favorite part of the Rob Zombie Halloweens, which for some this is blasphemy. I really liked Rob Zombie's Halloweens.
Yeah, they're fun.
I actually really like part two, and that's the one I know most people hate. But in part one, where Ken Foray has that the cameo, we have a feeling here to communicate. There's actually a video he shot or somebody shot of him saying that to me.
That's awesome.
Did you just say? Yeah, he was such a good sport about it.
That is awesome.
So anyways, all of that, my tangent, community, just being with people, knowing like it's okay to be a weirdo, to be quirky, to be different. Like you're not alone in that. Like talk to me about like finding that community in your life and like how that helped you like just as a human being, like coming into yourself, coming into life, coming into community. How has horror like helped with that?
That's interesting. So, I found it, I think it's just, you have these, like for me, I had these thoughts and things I would think just in general, like, and not necessarily in depth, but like, you think you're the only one that might think this about a movie, or you might be you think you're the only one that likes that movie, or you think you're the only one, ... And again, a lot of that stuff just being surface level kind of things about movies. And then you find people that literally feel the same way that you do, or have had the similar experience in finding horror that you did. I mean, I've actually met some of my good friends that were literally watching the same broadcast of Halloween that I was in 1981. Like,
no kidding.
And that became producers or artists or other things, like good friends of mine. And I'm like, wow, we were at the same night in different places in the country watching the same thing that started us on our path. Like, that's how so cool. Amazing. Like, it's like, trying to think of the best way to put it, but like, it's almost like something exploded in the air and all these ashes landed and we all had pieces of it and we all thought we were the only ones that had pieces of it, and then we came together like, hey, you have that same piece? That's awesome. You know what I mean? That's a weird way of putting it. It's the only way I could put it in a second.
Perfect.
But like, it's this weird thing where, again, I never felt alone necessarily in the sense that it was a bad thing, because I didn't think I had anything I was missing. There was no internet, so I didn't know what I didn't know, other than again, maybe in the Fangoria seeing something about a weekend of horrors. But I don't even remember me going, oh man, I bet there's a bunch of people going there and meeting these people and I can't be there. I don't remember that being so much of a thing. It was really sort of isolated and almost myopic in a way because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I think that was
Right.
a lot of us as fans across the country and the world for that matter, because a lack of the ability to connect, right?
Right.
Unless you lived in New York City or big places that had these things that you could maybe go a little more frequently.
Hmm.
So being able to connect with people, my sort of experience is probably a little bit different because of the way I entered in the community with something that I was selling, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it was discovering the community. To be fair, I had been, I was a part of those forums and things before I started Fright Rags for a
Right.
while. Like I was part of Halloween forum for a few years. So there
Sure.
definitely
Me
was an
too.
experience. Yeah, there was an experience of communicating with other fans and like that back and forth of just being a fan and mostly again Halloween related um in those forums, at least for me, knowing there was people out there and knowing people by their screen names and kind of having that sort of community there. But then as I started to attend conventions and things like that, that was only because I was selling stuff. And so my first experience in person was really to sell shirts at a convention. And
Right.
that was like doubly overwhelming because, you know, you walk into a hotel and there's, Leo Rossi, who played Bud in Halloween 2, standing there on his cell phone. I go in the elevator and Sid Haig walks in with me. And
Huh.
I'm like, what is happening in my life right now?
Right.
I was hanging out with Dick Warlock and Pamela Susan Shoop. I don't know even how this happened. We were talking and they were showing Halloween 2 in the room next, like we were standing outside the room. And Pamela goes, "Oh my God, is this my death scene?" And we opened up the door and there's Michael grabbing an, naked Nurse Karen and, putting her in the hot tub,
Yeah.
jacuzzi. And here I'm watching it with them.
Wow.
And it was just like, I mean, I didn't know them really. I mean, it was my first show ever. I was just
Right.
talking to them for a minute. I don't even know how that happened. So it was, and then seeing people in the shirts that I was selling, and then selling the shirts and making money from stuff I was doing. I mean, I was already making it online, but these were people buying it from me in person.
Yeah.
Like it really was, it was incredibly overwhelming. And it's still in a way, I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, but still at shows, it can get very stimulating,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on. So I've made so many close friends at conventions through Fright Rags primarily, that have become like family to me, especially when you start doing the same shows and you see the same people. So it's sometimes you only see them at shows. I mean, other people, I mean, we keep in contact all the time, things like that.
Yeah.
So as a human, I think, just in terms of like as a person growing into that community, it's a funny thing because it's an honor and I'm grateful to be able to contribute to that community and to be on that side of things where, you know, I don't know, like there are days where you feel like, there are people out there saving lives. There are people out there performing surgeries. There are people out there doing things that are so much more, in some ways, valuable, right?
Sure.
In some way. And yet here I am, we're designing shirts based on horror movies. But then I'll get an email from someone saying, wow, that really brightened my day, or thank you so
Yeah.
much, or just some little thing, little connection. And you go, okay, like, maybe it is making some sort of difference to somebody, maybe it is brightening someone's day, maybe it is doing something valuable and not just slinging stuff, because we do love it. I mean, it is a passion. It's
Oh, no
we
doubt.
do this because we thought it was a cool thing to get into. I mean, I mean, I did because I loved horror movies, not because I thought, oh, it's going to make so much money, or oh, there's a lot of horror fans over here,
Sure.
let's go over here and try to sell them stuff. But as a person, the way, it's a funny thing when you can think about friends and the connections you've made through something that is so visceral and what people put down as either crap or it's worthless, or it's mean, or it's all this stuff, add whatever adjective you want to.
Yeah.
But yet I've made some of my best friends primarily because we both like watching people getting chopped up and boobs and other things, just throwing again, all that stuff, right? Like
I know, right?
it's a weird thing to kind of parse out when, you could say that about maybe Lifetime movies or something, which are great too. But like they don't have conventions based on Lifetime movies or comedies, right? They have
No, they
conventions
don't.
of horror movies, right?
Yeah.
And that says something. And that says something about the people that watch this stuff and why they watch it. And, you know, for example, and I'll get off this tangent in a second, but like
Oh, take your
even
time.
some of the movies that we've done, a few years ago, we were approached by one of the producers of I Spit on Your Grave to do shirts for it. And
Yeah.
that's a hard movie, man. I mean, I've only honestly sat through it once,
Same.
and
One
I
time.
don't, that's not a movie. It's like, hey, it's Friday night. Let's grab some popcorn and put that movie on.
One and done.
And I felt really conflicted about doing it. And I didn't want it to seem, funny enough, I didn't want it to seem exploitive, even though that was kind of the purpose of the movie, and that the reason of that movie is because the guy who made it helped save somebody who was getting raped. So like it all came from a positive place. And then I found that there was a lot of people, women, obviously, mostly, that use that movie as an empowering,
Yes.
thing. And there is value there. Yes, it is disturbing, but it's not just because to be disturbing for disturbing sake. It's to get vengeance. It's to get that release and closure on something.
Like high tension in a way.
Yes, and I respect that. And look, I'm always one to say I might not like it, but I respect why it exists.
Yeah.
And so I respect that there are a lot of horror movies I will not watch, period. I have no interest, and I have no desire, but yet they're some of my friends' favorite movies, and I'm like, that's awesome that you love that movie. I just can't do it. So anyway, so to have that kind of vast, what am I trying to say? Like the horror community is vast. And so to have that sort of not disparity, but like all the differences among us, but we all are sort of under this one umbrella that I think in general, we all agree upon just the basis of horror being something that we love, even if one person doesn't like this movie and the other person doesn't like that movie or whatever. We don't all have to agree on exactly what we like, but we agree on the global sort of nature of horror.
Yeah.
And there are some bad actors. There's people that definitely want to crap on you within the community and then exploit it and do these other things, just like I think there are with sports fans and other things. I mean, it's certain the horror community is not immune from assholes. It just isn't. And there's plenty of them out there. And I see it every day. And then on the other hand, it's just an amazing thing to work within it and be a part of it from that side of things, where we can make things based on what we love, and people love those things because they love the same movies. It's a wild circular thing.
I love that. It's like when I interviewed Romero, we were talking about, and I'm sure you know this, but Return of the Living Dead. It was just as much a commentary on the state of racism in America. The protagonist makes it all the way to the end of the movie. He survives. The black actor survives. And lo and behold, he comes out the front door and, spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen Night of the Living Dead at this point, you should have, if you're a horror fan. But, my man gets shot by those redneck hunters with the dogs picking off the zombies. They knew he was not a zombie. They saw a black man and they shot him. And Romero did that intentionally. So Night of the Living Dead is not only an iconic horror film, but, in Romero's own words, was his commentary on what was happening at that time in at least Western civilization and racism. And then with Dawn of the Dead, enter Ken Foray, consumerism, in the mall. The dead, they go back to what they know, the mall. They go back. And that was his take on that. And I really appreciate that. Obviously not all horror films have an intersection with varying elements of mental health, but I think a lot of them do. I know a lot of them do. With Jordan Peele, for example, Get Out and Us and Nope. Like, look at those. Have you seen Nope? Like,
oh, I love
how cool was that?
That might be my favorite of the three so far. Although I mean, the other two are amazing, but Nope was just wild.
I watched it for the second time last month, and I was just like, yeah, totally stands up. And then I also love, to be honest, I'm old school, like Suspiria, Wicker Man, outside of horror, outside of Halloween. But then Ari Aster steps in and you have him doing Hereditary. Holy cow. Midsummer.
Mm.
That's like a new Wicker Man to me in a way. I saw Midsummer in the theater with my ex-fiance. And then we went back when they did that limited release of the 4.5 hour version. Hell yeah. Actually, I don't
Wow.
remember if she went back or not. I did. I was in for it. Like, I love that stuff. The Witch. Basically, if A24's name is attached to the horror to a horror film, if it's attached to anything, like mid 90s with Jonah Hill, like great
Mhm.
film. A24's killing it. Like, God bless A24. I don't know. I know there's that new Camp Crystal Lake series coming out through Peacock. Do you know? I've heard rumors that A24 is involved. Do you know
Mhm.
anything about that? Are they
Yeah.
involved?
Yeah, they're
So,
involved.
okay,
Yep.
that's that. I have a sigh of relief. And also Bloomhouse. Holy
Hmm.
cow. Like I'm waiting to like get to Halloween because that's gonna probably like be the most biggest part of our conversation. But when I heard Danny McBride, Kenny fucking Powers was gonna write it, I'm like, hold on a second. I love Danny McBride. That dude can do no wrong in my
Oh yeah.
eyes. Like, he is hilarious all the way back to, I think, one of his first movies, The American Way, where he was a
Mhm.
kickboxer or something. He was a kickboxer instructor. That dude is hilarious. Vice Principals, Righteous Gemstones, the movie he did with Robert Downey Jr., where he went, I'm so sorry, I'm on PC, but he went full retard.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Tropical Thunder, Ben Stiller was
Oh
in it.
yeah. Yep. Yep.
I'm like, how is this guy gonna pen a trilogy for Halloween? And then, but uh, David Gordon Green,
Hmm.
fantastic director, done tremendous work. I was in for it, and enter Halloween 2018. Whoa, like, holy shit, they brought it. They did it right. So let me pause for a second because before we get to that, there's a few other things I want to talk about. And I don't want to leave Halloween 3 out of this conversation because I love Halloween 3 so
Same.
much, man. What a great film. The nod they give to Halloween where you see Michael walking down the stairs. Um, I thought that was a tremendous film. I understand why the audience at the time
Mhm.
didn't get it. I'm glad it's become the cult classic that it has.
Same.
Would you want to, here's what I would love to see, to be honest with you. I want to see Rob Zombie finish his Halloween films with a Halloween 3 remake of Halloween 3.
Look, I'd be down. Like I enjoy Rob Zombie's films because I love it that it's Rob Zombie being Rob. Like
Yes.
love them or hate them, he is uncompromised in his vision as much as he can be. I know there were some issues with Halloween 2 and whatever, but he wants to do what he wants to do. And
Yeah.
if he had a vision for Halloween 3 or has one that he could remake and they would let him do his vision, then I'd totally watch it because I know what would be on the screen is exactly what he wants it to be, you know?
Yeah. And I love, like, I don't think he shies away, like obvious nods to like Texas Chainsaw Massacre style footage and
Oh
Tobe
yeah.
Hooper and how brilliant that was. But all right, so before we get into the Halloween thing, um, you mentioned being a parent. We talked about that. We talked about the business. Horror. Let's talk about spirituality in horror,
Mhm.
or something I thought of earlier. Like, any thoughts on like God and Satan and angels and demons? I actually just finished watching last night a Netflix show called Surviving Death. Very
Mm.
fascinating. Not what I expected it to be, but it started out with a doctor who was ended up in a kayaking accident. She was dead for 30 minutes, bloated, literally was on the other side, and came back. And she's still alive to this day and talks about it. And then it went into mediums and channeling and things of that nature. Um, you ever explore any of that or have any interest in that? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself a spiritual person. I grew up as pretty strict Catholic.
Okay.
I mean, by saying that, my mom was a strict Catholic.
Yeah, sure.
My dad was Methodist. It's funny because my mom marrying my dad was sort of like this, almost like rebellious nature because he was Methodist, and
Yeah,
my grandmother was basically like, you're that I'm okay with it if you raise your kids Catholic, which
cool.
my
Yeah.
dad was fine with. So all four of us were Catholic. I grew up as an altar boy. I mean, I went to church every Sunday. I went on Halloween because it was All Souls Day the next day, so we had to go, and it was usually Halloween
Dia
after
de los
school.
Muertos,
Yeah.
Samoa.
And yeah, so you know, I grew up pretty much strict Catholic. And so for many years, that was just, I went to religion classes on Saturdays because I was in a public school after second grade. So it wasn't until I got into about eighth or ninth grade that I started questioning a lot of things because, my religion teacher basically told me my dad was going to hell because he was Methodist. And I thought that was the
Wow.
craziest shit I've ever heard in my life. Like, that honestly was the day I was like, you know what? If that's what I'm supposed to believe, and I'm not saying my mom believed that, to be fair. I'm
Sure.
not. My mom was a very, like, as strict as she was as a Catholic, she was very open in terms of like acceptance and stuff. But so I don't
Right.
want to paint them in a bad picture, my mom in a bad picture. It was
Of
just
course.
that teaching, and I was like, that's some bullshit, man. Like, I can't take that. Like, no way. And then
Yeah.
when you start getting older and you start having your own opinions and thoughts, and they go up against, things that you were just taught as a kid, you start going, I don't know that I accept this religion as it is 100%, you
Right.
know? And I have nothing against religion or organized religion. I
Yeah.
think the people that find it and follow it and that make themselves a better person and makes them feel better, I think is great. But my wife and I were raised Catholic, and we both really don't follow the religion now. We don't, in fact, with our kids, we had done the baptism and confession, but when it got to confirmation, we decided to not force them into it because they weren't into it. And why am I forcing them to say something that they don't believe in?
That's
That's not
great.
good for them, and it's also not really good for the religion. Like, why do you want someone part of your religion when they're just saying the words? Like, it just
Right.
doesn't. If it doesn't mean anything, now if they come to it on their own, great, but I'm not going to force them into it. So, all that said, I still am a very spiritual person, and I still, whether or not I believe in a God or something, I do believe there is something there. And
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I don't want to label it as one person or a being, but I do. It comforts me to think that there is something there. I don't think
Yeah.
that I'm not atheist, but I'm
Right.
not. I guess I'm agnostic to some degree. It feels
Yeah.
weird saying that out loud, to be honest with you, but because I just don't know.
Yeah.
But I think there are things, I'm a believer in, okay, things happen for a reason, and it might be things that we just don't understand. Because here's the thing, we're one minuscule little planet in this vastness of the universe. So if
Right.
for me to say there is no God, that and to be so definitive is just like almost saying, hey, there is a God and it's this one thing that is this religion. That's crazy to me. To me, I'm like, I have no freaking clue. So why the hell am I gonna say it's one thing? Like, I
Yeah.
just don't know. But I feel like there's something there because when you think about death and you think about, well, what if it just blanks out? What if you were literally just being lowered into the ground and your body is gone? And you know what I believe? I'm like, look, if there is no afterlife, it doesn't matter because the
Mhm.
only thing that matters is what's here now, what we are
Right.
doing here and now. It does not matter what happens to you or your body or soul after you die. Whether it's lights out and you don't know a thing, well, guess what? You don't know a thing. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's the legacy you leave behind. It's the memories that are in people's heads about you. It is the things that they carry on. That's
Mm.
that's what matters. So spend more time making sure that's good and don't worry about what's going to happen to your soul after you die. Like,
I love
okay,
that.
it could be heaven, quote unquote, or this amazing place, or you could be reincarnated, or you could just go into the ground and no one, it doesn't matter because all you have is the moment that you're in right now. That's all you have ever. There is no past right now. There is no future. It's right now. So make that the best.
You know, what's super cool about you saying that is my spiritual teacher, Ram Dass, who wrote a very iconic book, Be Here Now. His root teaching is be here now. That's it. Just be here
Mhm.
now. You know, the past is the past. What we've done unskillfully, we have done. May we learn from it. May we become a better person for it.
Right.
There's a Zen Buddhist teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. I love this quote. I try to remind myself of this daily. He says, "My actions are my only true belongings. They are the ground upon which I stand." Because at the end of the day, that's all we really have is who we are and what we can offer this world. And
Mhm.
for me, I want to be the kind of person that's doing the right thing when nobody's looking.
That's
And
right.
I don't need to go tell them about it.
That's right.
I want to do that. I want to be that human. Um, and on a good day, I am that human. And I'm grateful for that. It took a lot. You know, the other thing Ram Dass said of many, many things, he said, suffering is the sandpaper of our incarnation. It does its job of shaping us.
Mm.
And so it's not that all the suffering I've experienced in life or you is for nothing, as long as we learn from it, grow from it, and are here now and being the most embodied, skillful versions of ourselves that we can be. You know,
Yeah, that's nice.
that's where I land. I want to share this quote really quick. It's from my second book. I'll send these to you, by the way. I want to give
Oh,
them to
cool.
you. This is a book called Everything Mind, but it's a quote. I love physics too and science. I like knowing things. And there is a physicist who specialized in the study of atoms. His name is Max Planck, and he was in Florence, Italy in 1944. And he said this, and this really resonates with me. He made me think of it when you're saying, I don't have a name for it or I don't identify it as something. You and I are very simpatico in that. And what Mr. Planck said was, quote, as a man who has devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you as a result of my research about atoms this much. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. I like
Wow.
that. It's
Yeah.
not saying it's God. It's not saying it's Vishnu or Brahman or Buddha mind or Christ or whomever. It's saying that there is an intelligence.
Yeah.
And to me, that's undeniable. Like, you know, if our arm gets cut, yes, we can put like Neosporin on it, a Band-Aid, but we're not consciously like healing it. There is an intelligence, a biology happening that's healing
Hmm.
it, you know? So
Sure.
I can't take credit for that. Like,
Hmm.
so to me, that's where I know faith is a tricky word too.
Hmm.
I don't believe in blind faith, but I believe faith is something that's important.
Yeah.
For me, I have faith that there is something beyond just this vessel that is Chris. So,
Hmm.
all right, I think we've done our due diligence on all of the mindful, mental health, recovery, spirituality stuff. Now it's time. I've been having fun, by the way, not to say I haven't. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Now it's time to have even more fun. But let's
Yeah.
dive into Halloween. Are you up for it?
I'm up for it.
All right. So this is gonna go any and everywhere, I hope. So Halloween 1, 1978. I had a great shirt, by the way. I forgot the company. They spell the names of the movies wrong. So it was like Halloween, Hol, and it said the night he came home when, what was it? The night he comes home when no one was home or something like that. I'm ruining it. It
That's
was
funny.
so damn funny. Um, but I love shit like that. Or I had a nod to New York. It said Halloween or Connecticut nod. And the hardcore band Hatebreed from Connecticut, their fire logo, it said Halloween, and it had a picture of Michael with Jamie Lee Curtis with when he was coming in the closet, and it
Oh
said
yeah.
Helen Haddonfield Hardcore. It was such a great shirt.
That's
That's
great.
why I love where we can intersect things,
Mhm.
And I do want to say, the last thing I'll say, a big part of inspiration for Necessary Death was in those conventions we were talking about in the community. My introversion kind of like without me trying just naturally fell aside. And I would start talking to people, or people would start talking to me. And it would probably start about horror movies or something we were both looking at, sticker, t-shirt, poster, whatever. And then we'd start talking about us, and then about life, and about like the beautiful things and the scary things and the tragic things. And I realized like there's a big demographic of human beings that haven't really explored the mental health end of life. Of I don't like self-improvement, but like self-development, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I get it because it can be a very gimmicky niche
Yeah.
markety thing. I don't like that. That's why my
Right.
first book's called Indie Spiritualist, a no bullshit exploration of spirituality. I don't like a Buddhist teacher called it like McMindfulness. I don't like that. I don't want to
Yeah,
water
yeah,
things down for the masses.
yeah.
I want to make it relatable and accessible, but I don't want to water it down. You deserve more than that. It deserves more than that, and we
Mhm.
deserve more than that. So that's really like the inspiration of Necessary Death is I want to, and my co-author Preston Fussell, brilliant writer. I don't know if you know his work, but we met. We were both writers for Fangoria, and that's how we met. And I had this funny idea in 2018, and I wrote to him in 2019, and I said, "This is an idea for a book. I don't feel like it's one I want to write on my own." And he has a degree in psychology as well, aside from being a brilliant writer.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm like, you wanna take a journey with me on this and see what can happen? And he said, yeah, let's do this thing. And he lives, I believe, in Texas now, and he's become quickly a very good friend, not just a co-author. Neither of us really write for Fangoria that much anymore, but thank you, Fangoria, for connecting us. And I have nothing but love for Fangoria. Like I read that growing up to have written for Fangoria. I wrote one of my pieces was about the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. I
Oh,
wrote
wow.
about that. That's actually probably the spark for Necessary Death, where I realized when I watched that movie, to me, it was not just like a fantastic movie. It was a horror movie in regards to the mental health that he was dealing
Yeah.
with. That a scene where I think the word hello was written, he put it like a smiley face in it, and he was talking about the decline of how Arthur Fleck, the character, how he was declining mentally. I've lived through that. I've been through psychiatric hospitals. Like I have many years ago, 20 years ago, I tried to kill myself. Like I've been through it. It's a miracle I'm alive, and I'm grateful to be alive. But I know there's a lot of people that are attracted to horror and occult and darkness because it resonates at that level for them. But I want them to know that there's another side to it where you can grow and learn about yourself and actually become a more healed and embodied human. So that's the point of Necessary Death. Um, so COVID hit, the book kind of got put on the back shelves, and then it was the beginning of this year or the end of last year, we found a really great home with HCI Publishing, and they get the vision. We just finished doing the final edits. We were trying to get Stephen King to write the foreword. I'm a Maine native. I was born there. Stephen King's
Mm.
also a recovering alcoholic.
Mhm.
My literary agent has one of only two copies of a very special pressing of The Stand that was done 30 years ago. She worked
Wow.
for, I think, I forgot the publisher, but she still has it to this day. Only two copies survived because there was something in the printing material that corroded the other ones. But so
Whoa.
she has the box. I'll send you pictures of it. She has the box. They call it the coffin. It's like 8 or 9 pounds, this thing. There's the brown box, and then there is the black box, and you take the cover off, and then there's this beautiful book. And you open it up, there's that cellophane, like white paper, and it's lettered and signed. And Stephen King signed it. And I was bummed because I tweeted a couple of times to him about it. And Preston is publishing one of his new books with a gentleman, I believe his name is Richard, who's co-authored books with Mr. King. And he reached out, but obviously it's Stephen King. He's very busy. We didn't get to him, unfortunately. Hoping maybe we can at least get an endorsement. If we can't, here's the second best for me, at least. We got I recorded a short video and sent it to Jason Pargin or David Wong, who wrote John Dies at the End, and he wrote the foreword. Have you read or seen John Dies at the End? Yeah, that whole all four books, and then the Zoe Ash series, Futuristic Violence and Fancy Suits. He wrote a really fucking stunning foreword for this book. Came through in the clutch, and we were like, well, we don't really need it till the end of June. He had it to us like within 3 days after I sent him the book.
Awesome.
I was like, thank you, man. So anyways, I just asked him if we're gonna do so the book comes out this year on Halloween because book publishing dates are on Tuesdays. And
so
this
cool.
Tuesday this year is Halloween. So
Yeah.
yeah, we worked it out. So that's gonna happen. We're gonna have the book launch here in San Diego where I work at Saluna Wellness. It's going to be a cool event. Jason, I hope, is either going to record himself reading the intro or live cast in to it. We're probably going to live stream it too, because this facility, we can only legally have, I think, about 50 people here. So we're going to do it on Sunday the 29th from 6 to 9 p.m. And if you and your family are around, if you want to hop online or anything, like it'd be so rad to see you. If not, don't worry about it. But I will certainly, of course, get you a copy of the book too, and a couple copies for you and the family. And I wrote, how old are your kids?
13 and 16.
Oh, never mind. I wrote a kid's book with my friend Mark, who's the drummer from a band Taking Back Sunday.
Oh, cool.
Called I Love Drums. It's really cute, but it's more for like zero, like baby to 5, give or take.
Yeah.
But I'll gift you all my stuff. Just
Cool,
I want to give you that stuff.
Thanks.
All right. All that said, we take a sip of a drink because we are about to go down this rabbit hole.
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm going to grab 1 second. It'll be 2 seconds.
Please take your time, my friend.
Just realized my throat was a little dry, so I'm just grabbing a sparkling water here.
Oh, for sure, man.
Okay. Now I'm good to go.
All right. So we kind of covered Halloween 1. Halloween 2, I still love it. Rick Rosenthal directed, John Carpenter begrudgingly was a part of it. Let's talk about Halloween 3. So I already kind of talked about it myself. Jump in. Halloween 3. Ben, what do you think?
So I first saw it when I was a kid, obviously. I don't remember how old I was, but I remember, of course, like everybody else thinking, oh, great, another Michael Myers movie. I love 1, I love 2. 2 ended with him in fire. I pop in 3 and go, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I had to have been 8, 9 years old. Only because I know I saw it pre-Halloween 4, because I knew what I didn't like about it, right? So I didn't touch it after that. And then I remember I think I was about 19, and I was working at this job. I was about to go back to college. And I had come home. I was too sick because I used to get seasonal allergies in August.
Oh, sure.
And this is before I was getting any like shots or anything for it. So I just could not go into work. I was on my way and I said, screw this, I'm turning around, because I only had like a few more days left to work anyway, and I had to go back to school. I'm like, screw this, I got to go home. This is horrible. So anyway, I get home and my mom's like, hey, I found this movie in like the discount bin and bought it for you. And she handed it to me. It was Halloween 3.
Season of the Witch.
And I was like, oh yeah, I don't own this because it's crap, but whatever. But I was sick, so I'm like, I'm just gonna go downstairs and watch it, because what else am I gonna do? I couldn't go to sleep because it's too congested, whatever. Anyway, I watched it and I went, holy shit, this is a great movie.
Right.
Like, this is a solid movie. And that was what, 97, 98, whatever. I'm like, this is just a great movie. So I was like all into it, and I really enjoyed it. And I revisit that one almost more than some of the Halloween sequels because I love it so much. And it's funny to me going back to horror community. That's one of the things about Halloween 3 that you start early on, I should say, in the quote unquote internet days, whatever, that people started realizing that Halloween 3 was a good movie. And of course, if they had just called it Season of the Witch, it would have been a much better film, all that stuff. To the point where now, if someone dogs on Halloween 3, it's almost weird because it's like, it's okay to like that movie now. Like,
yes.
It not it just in a funny way. It's like it's accepted now that you can like that movie.
Yeah.
It has been for the better part of at least a decade or more.
Right.
I mean, definitely. And now that there's so much merchandise out for it and things like that, I mean, it's heavily supported now in the community as a solid movie. And we had in 2010 actually, we had Fred Decker and Tom Atkins up here for the weekend. And on Friday night we showed The Fog and Halloween 3, and on Saturday night we showed Monster Squad and Night of the Creeps.
Wolfman Has Nards.
And I sat right next to Tom watching Halloween 3, and it was great. I mean, we hung out all weekend. He's great.
Holy shit, dude.
And it was just cool to see it with him, and he was telling me stories about it. He and I and Fred stayed up way too late a few of those nights and just talked, and it was great. So Halloween 3 is a movie that's near and dear to my heart. I got to go to the Buccaneer and have a beer with Tom, get a picture with him, yeah. Several years ago at the Halloween 40th convention. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
Anyway, I love it. I champion it. And it's one of my favorite sequels. I mean, I don't think of it when I rank my Halloween movies, like all fans do. I don't like to include it because it's just so different that it's hard for me to like place it somewhere. But if I have to place it somewhere, I mean, it's up in the top 3 or 4 easily. I mean, usually top. Honestly, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are my favorites in terms of the movies that I love so much.
Same, yeah.
And it usually goes 1, 4, 3, then 2, probably, or sometimes 2 and 3, depending
on let's jump to 4. For me, hands down, the best intro to a horror movie of all time ever is Halloween 4.
And that is another thing. I'm glad you said it, because when I saw it as a kid, that was the first Halloween movie I saw in the theater.
Yeah.
I actually saw it on October 30th, 1988. So when that card was in the beginning, I was like, this is like now. I was 11 years old. It was amazing.
Wow.
And so that was one of those things that personally I felt was the coolest opening. It felt like Halloween to me.
Yeah.
And then years later, people all over saying the same thing. We all felt that. And obviously they were going for something like that, but really we all feel really much very much the same exact way about that opening.
Yes.
I mean, like to the point where we're all like saying the same words and things about it and how much it feels like Halloween, which is funny because all it is like a field and like a scarecrow. It's really not.
No, but with the wind,
really not anything that is. It's not even showing like old. Well, it does show like old like decoration, but it's not anything so in your face. And that's what I love, the fact that you and I and thousands of other people that I know like have shared the same sentiment. I love it. Right.
Same with like the cover of Season of the Witch with the 3 kids with the orange background. That to me, like that's Halloween. Like that is Halloween. Halloween for that intro, just showing those various scenes, like you said, the barn, the skeleton, the scythe or sickle, I think in one scene, the tractor, and just with that the wind blowing. And I think
it was like still life.
Yes, exactly.
And I love that it was like an abandoned barn and like this broken down thing. It was just still looking out into the fields at sunset. To me, I guess to everybody, it was that is what, and I love that we have this communal love and experience with that opening. I think that's really cool. it was almost jarring to me how closely people related to that as well as I did. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, it was a fun opening, or yeah, it was kind of cool. Like we're all like the best opening ever. Like it's
Right.
the cool. It is Halloween. I'm like, man, yeah, it totally is.
And, for me, because the most magical part of Halloween to me, it's all magic, but I love when the sun is setting. I would often be like raking leaves at my parents' house, making a trail for trick-or-treaters, knowing I was going to put a Michael Myers mask on and pretend to be like a dummy or something. There's something in the air. There is a real magic. And then to this day on Halloween, I don't really go trick or treating, though the first year when COVID hit, my ex fiance and I, she dressed up. I went, I took a lot of pictures and videos. They had to do distance trick or treating where they just set up tables and had bags of
Mhm.
candy. And we were just walking around because I love to be out in the magic, in the spirit of Halloween. And it started kind of as a joke. She went up and grabbed a bag, and all the people as we kept walking were like, please, it's here, take it. So we came home, like where you talked about in the bio with the hall, you're going through your
Yeah.
hall. And we legit like almost argued because we were trying to trade candies, and like it's like, no, I won't take your Snickers for this Reese's or something. Like it was so much fun, man. Like, and I think that those elements, really embodied that. And then that scene where it starts with the movie, I love this. The guy that brings them down in the elevator, the short guy, he's like,
Mhm.
Jesus has got nothing to do with this place.
Yeah.
I've seen him in so many
Yeah.
small roles, like on Seinfeld or other shows, and every time I see him, he will always be to me that guy from Halloween 4. Like it's
Oh yeah.
super cool.
And the woman nurse that's there at that beginning, she worked at Iris Toys in Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh, no kidding. Didn't
Yeah.
know that.
So it's funny, there are parallels to Silent Night, Deadly Night and Halloween 4 and 5 because they were all shot in Salt Lake City. So
Whoa.
if you watch Silent Night, Deadly Night and there's that Santa that sneaks into the kid's room and the
Yes.
cops, because it's the dad,
Right.
that's Donald Shanks who played Michael Myers in part 4 or part 5. Sorry, part 5.
I did not know that.
One of the cops is the same guy. I'm trying to remember now. Oh, check this out. Sorry, I'm on a tangent. The guy
Go
who
for
was
it.
with Linnea Quigley in the Silent Night, Deadly Night, that is Back Talk with Barry in is
Oh,
it
from
Barry?
Halloween 6.
Halloween 6. Yeah.
Oh, Barry Sims.
Barry Sims, yeah.
Back talk
Innocence,
with
yeah.
Barry Sims.
So
All right.
there's so many of these weird crossovers, but yeah,
Yeah.
the nurse, because I remember watching one of the films, and maybe it was Silent Deadly Night, and I was like, damn, she looks familiar, and I was looking her up, and I was like, oh my God, all those movies. So I think they might have been local actors. I could be wrong about that, but it makes sense. I mean, they were all three of those films were shot in Salt Lake City, and I don't
Oh
know, I
man.
guess it just
Well,
makes
that's
sense.
like Tom Atkins, and was it PJ Souls that was in The Fog and Halloween, or was it Lori Brackett, the other woman? I forgot her name.
Annie, who
Annie Brackett.
she was in yeah, Nancy Loomis.
Right.
She was in Halloween 3 and she was in The Fog.
Yes.
Tom Atkins, his name in The Fog is Nick Castle, of course.
Yes, I know. How cool is that?
So, I mean, all those funny,
Yeah. It's
things.
funny
Yeah.
when you were talking about being in like a hotel lobby watching, or a hotel seeing that Halloween 2 scene. Back in Connecticut a few years ago, Nick Castle, they did a Halloween thing. He was there. I was walking around the corner at the end, and he was on the street corner by himself waiting for his publicist. So I'm like, hey man, I just want to let you know, like Halloween really helped me in my life, like in my therapy and stuff, and I appreciate you. And he said, that's really cool, man. Thank you for saying that. And that was it. And I was like, thanks, man. Didn't ask for a picture or photo. I know, they charge for that. And he probably would have done it, but I wanted to
Mhm.
respect his time. But how cool, like just a human moment.
Yeah.
So Halloween 4, yes, the return of Michael Myers was awesome. To enter the goddess, who I've also got to interview and met in Worcester, Danielle Harris.
Mhm.
Oof. Um, which is funny to say because she was a kiddo in 4 and 5, like a little kid, but turned out in Rob Zombie's, Halloween to be this gorgeous
Mhm.
woman. And of course, the Hatchet series.
Mhm.
Um, so, all right, let's go Danielle into Halloween 5. That one falls on the lesser of my favorites. The mask, that car, the clown mask, Dr. Loomis holding Danielle Harris, like that was kind of fucked up.
Catch
Like,
the
come
little
here,
girl.
Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know. What do you think, man?
So I okay, the thing about Halloween 5 is I look at that movie through nostalgia goggles
Sure.
because it's a it's a bad movie, and not to say that it's anybody's fault that's in the movie. It's not anybody, Dominic offending Gerard, definitely had his own vision of that movie. And it was weird. And, what's the deal with the Myers house? Why is it a castle now? Like, there's
Right.
so many questions. But again, going back to being now 12-year-old, seeing it the first Saturday it came out what, Friday night or whatever, and I saw it Saturday morning or the first show on Saturday with my friend, another friend who was into horror movies like I was. We were only friends for a couple of years, but we would watch movies together. So he was one of
Cool.
my only other friends that were into it. And we went, I remember with his Godfather, and we sat there. And I remember, what I liked about it at 12 was that okay, so this is back at a time, when you're a kid, you think the filmmakers, they all know what they're doing. Like it's one big cohesive story. Like they're even like Friday the 13th, it's like, okay, what are they doing? Where is this going? And the fact
Right.
is nobody knows. Somebody gets signed to this movie, they grab it and they do what they want with it, not thinking of it there being another one, right? In most cases, I should say.
Right. Right.
So Halloween 5, it ends with the man in black getting Michael out
Yeah.
of the prison or the jail cell there, and Daniel Harris just kind of standing there alone. Everyone's dead, and you're like, "Whoa, where is this going to go?" And so for a few years, I wrote on that, thinking, "What could they do?" And this, your mind is a light with possibility and like thinking of it. Now, again, it's not a good movie, but my one friend Tim, who he and I watched a lot of horror movies together, he was that main friend. We watched that one a lot because it's so just bonkers and so much of a slasher movie.
Right.
Whereas part four to me is again probably my second favorite Halloween movie.
Mhm.
Is more like Halloween 1. It's slow, and which is great. But when
Yes.
you're hanging out and you're drawing, you're reading Fango, and you want something on the background, we would put on part 5
Sure.
because it was just the pacing was quicker, and so it was just a little bit more entertaining to have something on in the background. But as much as like that movie is not good, it's highly quotable.
Oh yeah.
There's just so many elements, but it's batshit crazy. So
The
I
sound
def
effects with the cops in that one scene, the
oh
boing.
yeah,
What?
it ranks low in my rankings as well, but it's probably number 5 in my ranking. Like
Yeah.
seriously, like I mean, we'll get into the other ones, but like yes, there's elements of like H2O. I mean, H2O is a much better movie than part 5.
Yeah, I liked H2O.
And I love part 6 for a lot of reasons too.
Same.
But 5, I could probably put it lower, but there's this again, it's the time I saw it is the
Yeah.
only way I can explain it. If I saw it at 25 years old or now, I'd be like, what is
Different
this? You know what I
story,
mean?
right.
A different story. So, and again, it has, I mean, I loved Danielle in it and Loomis in it
Yeah.
and Wendy Kaplan and Ellie Cornell. Like they were all great. Like it had
Yeah.
nothing to do with them, their acting. It was just it was just a bonkers movie. And Jeffrey
Yeah.
Lamb, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I every year I watch all the Halloweens. I will not skip 5. And just like I'll put it on the background. It's not like I have to sit down and dedicate myself to watching it. But it reminds me of that boing the cop things of like that Friday the 13th where Jason's like in the woods and those guys are playing paintball and they have
Part
those like
6,
funny
yeah.
sounds too. I'm like, what are you
Yeah.
guys doing? Come on now. But all right, so Halloween 6, Paul Rudd's first movie, who I love Paul Rudd. He's funny as hell, very, very diverse actor. Um, I loved The Curse of Thorn, how they tied in the Samhain or Samhain, however you pronounce it. Now, of course, there's the director's cut. I liked that version better, personally. I know a lot of people do, also a lot of people don't. A lot of people just don't like 6, period.
Mhm.
I really liked it because it goes back to those Celtic origins, kind of that Wicker Man idea. So tell me about Halloween 6. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I like it for what it is. Again, I always think of these movies in the time that I saw them. So I was going to college
Right.
at the time, and I remember walking. Like I remember coming home. I only went to my first year of college was about an hour away. I remember coming home and my buddy Tim and I saw it in the theater, and the only other person that was in the theater was a guy dressed as Michael Myers.
Oh, sweet.
And he kept calling him Michael Mayers, which I thought was the funniest thing
Oh
ever.
my God. Okay.
who come to find out is a customer of ours now years later, which is hilarious. But anyway, um, so and then I remember when I was at school walking like 5 miles to the theater to go see it. But it was just cool. Number one, because it was another Halloween movie, and it had been what was that 1995, right? So that was like 6 years after the movie. So like seeing another Halloween film after 6 years, I was just excited, right?
That was my first theater Halloween was 6.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so that was also like I liked what you said, getting back to like its Celtic origins, the whole runes and thorn was cool.
Right.
I also thought it did really feel like Halloween in that movie.
Yes, yeah.
Which is again another sentiment that I've heard from other people. And it's funny, the more I watch it now as I'm older, the slightly less I feel like that, but I still think it holds up.
Yeah.
Whereas the Halloween 4 thing only gets better with time, right?
Yes, agreed.
But I mean, I did like the producer's cut. That was a really cool sort of lore in the early internet days of we heard there's this cut and then you had to get it on VHS and was this whole thing. Yeah. Very similarly, small tangent here. When I saw Halloween, the original Halloween the first time, that was the TV edition. And
where they added the extra scene?
Right. Every subsequent version I'd seen after that was not. And I was like, I remember there being scenes of Michael there. I remember there being in this boardroom or this room and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until like 96, 97 that they released the TV version on Laserdisc, and I saw it on the internet for the first time, pictures of it, and I was like, oh my God, it's validated. Like my memory was right. But anyway, so part 6 had that cool thing about the producer's cut, which I did like better, I think, for the most part. And I'm glad that was released on Blu-ray and I guess 4K now. So yeah, it's good. I like it. It's this weird, like it's somewhat nostalgic, but I was a little bit older at the time, so it was like it holds like a kind of a special place in my heart, but it's like I'm not like in love with it either. You know what I mean? It's just a fun watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I still have all of my VHS copies of Halloween, and they did a reissue, a double VHS where the VHSs are orange.
Oh, I have that.
Yeah, I have that too.
Oh yeah, of course.
That was the one that came with the
snow globe, and the keychain, which I wore out.
Yes, yeah. I lost my snow globe in one of my moves. I looked up on eBay; those shits go for like $500.
That's crazy.
It's worth every penny. If I had infinite amounts of money, I'd buy it again. I remember like Seth MacFarlane when they did the movie Maniacs. Like the Halloween, I had that.
Oh, Todd McFarlane, yeah.
Or Todd McFarlane. I'm sorry, yes. yeah.
I still have my movie Maniac. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. Sleepy Hollow, he did a great job with that. Christopher Walken, that was dope. All right, so we can pretty much skip over unless you want to talk about my least favorite entry, Halloween Resurrection. I love Busta Rhymes, great rapper, but Happy Halloween, motherfucker! Like, dude, I hated it. I mean, I've watched it, and again, I won't skip over it because it's part of my tradition of Halloween. Any thoughts on Resurrection?
I wanted to like it. The one thing there's a lot of things I don't like about it, but it came out in July, and that was just a horrible time for. I mean, H2O and Halloween. Well, Halloween 6, I think, even came out in late August. H2O did early August, but for Resurrection to come out in July, that was stupid. Yes. But I've only seen that movie twice all the way through. Okay. That was when I saw it in the theater, and then I think a year or two ago I was watching it with my son, and he even got bored with it.
Yes.
And so when I do watch it, and again, this is very rarely, I'll watch the first 5 minutes and I'll watch the last 5 minutes.
That's about it. Yeah.
The movie, and again, I don't like. Here's the thing. I don't like putting things down because it takes a group effort and people are putting their hearts into it. And I respect that. I respect anybody who goes out there and tries to make something, right? Like, absolutely. So I don't want to, I really do. But personally, I just don't think that movie is very good. Mm-hmm. It's flat with its acting. It's flat with its story. There's nothing in there that's compelling to me. And it just doesn't do anything for me. The one thing that I will give them credit for is at least they made the Myers house look like the Myers house.
That's true.
I think they did Jamie Lee Curtis dirty, and I know that was a whole contractual thing, but I really thought, I thought H2O was a great film for what it was,
Yeah.
but for that to be her ending in the beginning of Resurrection was not good.
No.
And then for them to just grab a bunch of these like kind of actors of the day, if you will. I mean, you had Tyra Banks and Busta Rhymes, which
Right.
are clearly the star power, but then you had, Thomas Ian Smith, right? Whatever, the kid from American Pie. And then you had a couple
Yeah.
other people in there that were sort of known, almost like a WB type of thing thrown in there.
Right.
I liked the idea of what they were doing with the live streaming. I liked some of the ideas there were actually pretty cool, but it just does not do anything for me. And quite frankly, it just doesn't even feel like a Halloween movie to me. It just kind of feels like this weird movie that they slapped Michael Myers into.
Great. All right. That was more time than I thought we were going to spend on it, but that's good. Like, hey. So here we go. The trilogy. Halloween 1. We already talked about Rob Zombie, so we'll leave those out, and they are what they are. Halloween 2018. So picks up where Halloween 1 ends. I loved it. I thought they did a fantastic job. I laughed because the dad of Laurie's daughter. Did you ever watch Seinfeld?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the guy, I'm the king, or I'm the whiz, but I'm the whiz. Like, I always think of that whenever I see him. Like, it cracks me up. The end with the cops and the sandwich, the bone sandwich or whatever, like the bonemies. I love that movie, man. I thought they did a fantastic job. They kind of poked fun a little bit at, like, in the beginning where the dude's walking with the two females and like, but in this day and age, is that really like that big of a deal or something? So I they kind of poked fun at themselves. So tell me what do you think of that one?
So my experience with it is a little different because we got the rights to that film early on, and
I remember that.
They sent us the script and images of Michael in February or March of that year.
Okay.
And so, it was so cool to see Michael. Like, I didn't, because no one knew what he was going to look like.
Right.
And,
they even had like the neck thing from Laurie's.
And so to see, I had everybody come into my office and we all looked at the pictures because they're all from the set. And I'm like, this was so rad. So we loved it. But the script, no one except our production manager, Chris, and myself wanted to read it because they all wanted to be surprised, which I totally, and not that, we were reading it because we need to develop, obviously, shirts, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I guess my point is saying I read the script before I saw the movie, right? So I sat and read it in a night, and I came back, and Chris and I the next day shared notes, and the script that we read, they were already shooting the movie or almost done shooting the movie at that point. They might have been in post at that point. I don't remember. This was March, so maybe they were still shooting. Doesn't matter. Was not the same exact thing as the movie, because what ended up happening was they changed the third act and they changed the ending. And so when I read it, I immediately thought, I don't like Dr. Sartain. I think this is
the new
is weird.
Yeah.
Right. And then in the third act, there was still a fight at the house, but it wasn't as drawn out as it was in the movie. There was no Laurie falling from the balcony to reference from part one. There actually was no line of her saying, "Oh, you're the new Loomis," which is interesting. They put that in there later.
Okay.
What I hated about the script, and that really was just like, you got to be kidding me, was the ending. Because in the end, what happened was they don't put him in the basement and torch the place. What they do is, if I remember correctly, it's been years since I've read it.
Sure.
All three girls attack him outside, which is cool.
That is cool.
There was a knife, and I think there was like a bow and arrow or something, or a crossbow, and there was something else, and they attack him. And I think the same thing happens where the truck picks them up and they go, but then Michael wanders into the woods and then leans against the tree, and then all you hear is his breathing at the end of the movie. And to me, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, come on. Like, this is the end? Like, what do you mean? He's just gonna lean up against a tree and breathe, and that's all you hear? Like,
didn't they shoot that? Did they shoot that too?
I think they did, because
I thought they did too.
From what I understand, they started releasing test screenings, and then people were not favorable to it, so they went and rewrote a bunch of stuff. And then, so when I finally saw it in the theater, I was excited because I knew most of what I was going to see. I already knew. I knew the most of the story was, but there was things that popped out that were different. And of course, the last basically 10, 15 minutes of it were relatively new, which was great for me because I was seeing it for the first time and not thinking I knew it was going to happen,
Right.
which was great. So all that aside, I really, really enjoyed it. The things that really kind of bothered me, if I can say it, were, you have Laurie thinking he's after her, and I understand that. And there's a lot of, first of all, love the way she portrayed the trauma and how the years of, her incarceration and the effects all of that had on her. I was all down for it.
Right.
And she played it beautifully. And the fact that, no, Michael is just a killing machine. But the problem that they had to deal with is, but you need to have them fight each other. But he's just like, he's just going to keep going.
Right.
And she thinks he's coming after her. So how do you get them to fight? And then what they came up with was Dr. Sartain character, which, to be fair, I liked him better in the movie than I did in the script. The one thing that kills me in that movie is the fact that he picks Michael up with one arm and drags him into the car. That honestly kind of pisses me off because I feel like he could have done a better job with that. It really bothers me because I can't suspend my disbelief that much.
Yes.
I get why he's trying to drag them together, and I respect that more as a movie now than I did in the script. So maybe it's because I had some time to sit with it or something.
Right.
But overall, I really love the way that movie was done. I love Michael's look. I love the way Jamie portrayed Laurie again. I liked that arc. I mean, what else are you going to do? I think I thought it was great.
Yeah, cool. I agree. So I got 15 minutes before the recording stops.
Yeah, no worries.
Let's jump into part 2, or Halloween Kills, excuse me. This one I've watched seriously probably about 30 times, and it was during a relapse I had to alcohol. My ex-fiance and I broke up. It was a very strange time in my life, but I loved it. I hated it. I loved it. I hated it. I loved it. I hated it. I decided I love it. I decided, to me, it's kind of the Halloween 3 of the new series. Not that it's like its own entity, but it's like, I think with time, it's going to become what Halloween 3 did. That was my take. I really liked Tommy Doyle in it. There was things, of course, like I said, there were reasons I hated it. The scene where the 2 cops come in and they're going through the house in the flashback, and he goes, hey, there's a dead dog in here. The guy goes, huh? He goes, oh, nothing. What the fuck? Like, I remember I was telling my friend Mel that. I'm like, I called him. He hadn't watched it. I'm like, I FaceTimed him or something. I'm like, just watch this scene. Am I crazy? Or is this just like nonsensical? And he's like, I think it's a little both, Chris. I'm like, all right, fair. That's valid. But I really liked it. The ending, was pretty gnarly. I wasn't sure if Laurie's daughter was really dead. There was that, they kind of left that in the ether for us to percolate with. But so tell me about Halloween Kills.
So I kind of have a sort of a love-hate relationship with it as well. I think it's highly rewatchable. In fact, I saw it in the theater. I came home that night because it was the day and date with Peacock, and I watched it on Peacock that night.
Yes.
Again, my experience was a little different. We were doing shirts for it. I got to go on set for a couple days and hang out there, which was wild. So I got to see a lot of things being filmed with Jamie Lee Curtis and a bunch of other people. And it was So that was fun because then you see scenes that I'm like, oh my God, if they panned over like 2 inches, I'm like right there. It's just crazy. It's like funny. But that aside, like that was just such a cool experience. But the movie itself, again, I hadn't had the script, but I knew the story going into it. So I already kind of knew the plot points.
Right.
But again, I hadn't seen the movie or read the script. So it was still new to me. And I was like really excited to see what they were doing with it.
So cool.
I liked the Tommy Doyle and the bringing back Lindsay Wallace. But I didn't feel like we had enough time with them to understand their history over the last 40 years. I mean, just give us 5 minutes, because my issue was they spent so much time on that escaped patient
Right. From
thought
the
was Michael,
bus.
who I'm like, the
Yeah.
guy's like 5'2" and stumbling around. Who would ever think this is Michael
Portly
Myers?
fellow,
First of
right.
all, that was a little lame. I understood this whole Evil Dies Tonight and then the mob mentality. I liked the idea of the mob mentality. I just thought it wasn't maybe executed as well. And the
Sure.
fact that they spent a lot of time on that versus maybe just, again, I'm not asking for this 20-minute dissertation, but like just a little bit of give me a feeling of this broader universe, because when it was explained to me the story that, oh no, Laurie was going to these meetings every month with them and then started being more distant. Like I didn't get a feeling of their history together. Laurie, Lindsay, and Tommy as this and nurse Stevens there.
Right. Cool. They brought her back.
Or
I like
Nancy
that.
Stevens or her nurse, the
Right.
collective survival thing. I never got a sense of that. Whereas when it was told to me, it felt more organic and like, oh, that interesting to me. And I didn't get that in the film at all, except for like the 2 minutes of Tommy being drunk up on stage, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
So to me, it feels very rushed. It feels like a movie that was cut up a bit and then replaced with just more killing. What I will say is this was Michael. I loved Michael in this. And again, I know it's all James Du Courtney and all three of them, but there were moments in this movie that I thought I was watching Michael, like, Tommy Lee Wallace and Nick Castle from the first one.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it was so awesome that I was like, damn, I just wish we had more stalking Michael.
Yeah.
I love slashing Michael. I just needed more stalking, spooky Michael, like he was in the playground. But I will say that I loved it. I liked the ending. They did change it. I know the original ending's on like the Blu-ray or on Peacock.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I didn't know that.
It's the only thing that's different, and this is what I was told when I was told the story, and they shot it because you can see it, but then it was different in the theater, is the phone rings after he kills Laurie's daughter, and then he picks it up and puts it to his ear, just like in part one, and she's like, and you hear her breathing, and she goes, "I'm coming for you, Michael."
Oh, I
and
think
then
you did actually see that on
you're
YouTube.
supposed to see her coming down the hallway at you, which is in the trailer.
Yeah.
That was how they were going to end it. But I actually think, I don't know why they changed it, but I'm assuming it's because of COVID and because they had to do a time jump. I don't think the last one was supposed to be a time jump originally, although I could be way off on that. I didn't think it was supposed to be. I didn't know anything about ends when it came out, but very little at least. But anyway, but I liked it. I like it. It's rewatchable and it's fun movie, really.
What I liked is it returned Michael to Halloween 1, where he was just killing to kill. No rhyme or reason. He was just a maniacal force of evil,
I will say this, just to get to his house, to look out his window, it's a little weird. It's like that. It's like, oh, so he's just going to his house? Like he was at his house in the first one. So why does it, anyway, but.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. So let's fast forward to Halloween Ends. And for me, speaking of kind of rushed or not fully developed, I liked Ends. I know a lot of people didn't, and I understand why. I really appreciated the new fellow that they brought into it. I liked the idea behind that. I feel like that's the part I feel was rushed. It could have been developed more. I think they really did pretty much the best they could do with the time they had allotted. And I like that it leaves the window open, even though he's dead, for a new Michael Myers, because obviously there's going to be another Halloween movie. Like Michael Myers will never die, or, the mask will never die. The shape will never die. So I like that though it ended, Halloween did end, Myers did end. The shape didn't, so tell me your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, and again, I think this was planned on David Gordon Green's part, and I'm sure you've seen the different correlations, but with the typeface in the beginning, it being the same as Halloween 3. It is like the Halloween 3 of the trilogy, right? And I think like Halloween 3 in the original, it's going to, I think, time will serve it better.
Sure.
I think in the long run, people will be more forgiving with it. My issue with Halloween Ends is this. Yes, I love the direction they went in. I actually like the idea that they're exploring the broader sense of evil and how it can affect somebody else. I can buy into the fact that Michael wasn't as powerful and he was stuck in a sewer or whatever. I can
Right.
buy those things to a degree. The problem is you have set people up for a showdown. You have basically built up an expectation of this is it, this is the last one with Laurie, the last this, and then you give us, 85 minutes of something different, and then you give us
Right.
5 minutes of a finale. And I think that's a little bit of I don't want to say a jip, but to me, if you took all the ingredients of 2018 kills and ends and threw them into a bowl and then mixed them around, and then you came out with 3 movies that had the same ingredients but in different parts, you could have an arc that would follow that finale and keep the Corey Cunningham in there. And I think there would be an interesting thing there.
I love that. I've never thought of it that way.
I like the concepts and what they were trying to do. I just felt like but everyone's expecting a finale, and maybe you painted yourself into a corner, but I'm sorry, that's kind of a big deal. Like Jamie Lee Curtis's last Halloween film ever, and you're building this crescendo, but you're going to go off and do this other thing for a while and then come back. And you're like, okay, what? And again, I think I thought it was cool. I like a lot. I've seen it like 5 times, like it's not like I hate the movie. It's just, I felt like it was a little tone deaf with what people were expecting. And I don't really blame people for not liking it.
Same.
I just don't think it's given a fair shot. And I think that sucks because I think there's cool concepts in it, but it was overshadowed by the fact that, Laurie and Michael. And then look at the trailers, Laurie and Michael. And then
Right.
at the time, it's not even Michael killing people.
Right.
So
they did bring the car back from 5, so there was that. Same car, that convertible.
Yeah.
That 5 minutes though of that showdown was pretty awesome. Like, where Laurie stabs him in the hand and puts the fridge up and jacks him up. There's this really cool YouTube series that I stumbled upon by accident. I put in The Science of Halloween. I YouTubed it one night. I was just like bored and I'm like, I want to learn about that. And there's this, I want to give this dude a shout out. I've never talked to him. But the amount of time that this gentleman, I can only imagine, spent doing these videos, and he does other horror movies too. I think it's CZ's World. Yeah, here he is.
Oh, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Have you? I went down a YouTube rabbit hole. This dude, what I love is he looks at the Halloween franchise like a subway terminal, and he has like this map. And so like Halloween 3 is like out here by itself, but then you have Halloween 1, 2, 3. He does like these very intricate, very detailed movies about each character, like Loomis, like Laurie, even Danielle Harris, Jamie Lloyd. Then after Halloween Ends, from Halloween 2018 to Kills to Ends, he did like an hour-long one each, like of Michael's progression through and through. I mean, so detailed. Like, God bless this man. I haven't really checked out the other stuff he's done for. I think he does like the Scream movies and Smile, and I thought Smile was pretty dope actually, for a newer horror film. But I think he does like some other stuff. But he's doing well. Congrats to him. He has like over 1 million YouTube followers and stuff. Like, but he earned that, man. He puts in a lot of work. If you ever get a chance, like you already probably know basically everything he shares, but to just see another fellow lover of this film that dedicated so many hours of his life to like putting this together for free for people. Sure, he sells merchandise and stuff, but like he does this because you could tell he loves it, man. Like, so shout out to CZ's World. And I think I found his email. I'll email him this conversation when we're done, because the dude, like, he deserves credit. He is a Halloween fan, like big time. Like, what was that, like fan extraordinaire or something? But yeah, man, check that out if you ever get a chance. But all right, man. So I think we've got 4 minutes before this Zoom recording is gonna stop. www.fright-rags.com if you are a horror fan, or if you are just a fan of nostalgia. I am going to give you this warning. It's only fair. Your wallet might be angry with you. Your prices, though, I want to say, man, thank you for keeping it realistic and reasonable for people that work. Like, it shows like that you guys know that people out there are spending hard-earned money. You could charge a lot more than you do for your products. The products are so high quality. And I'm saying, so you've never gifted me a thing. I've spent probably thousands of dollars with your company. I would never ask for anything because I want to support you. But from the figures to, I have those Halloween 3 figures you guys did. That was you, correct? Or was that NECA?
We didn't do the figures, we did the masks of the
The
Halloween 3.
mask. That's right. I did not get in on those. Did you do the Halloween shirt with the long sleeve Michael, the orange one? Uh, Death Has Come to Your Town or something with a knife on it, or that might have been somebody
We
else.
did not the long sleeve orange one. We did an orange one for Halloween Kills.
Okay. I
Trying to
know I
think.
have a hoodie you guys did from Halloween. I think I have a Thing hoodie you guys did as well. Love the Thing. I've got a lot of Fright Rag stuff. I actually found it at a convention. My friend gifted me. It didn't have the t-shirt in it, but it was Tarman's mask.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, he found it. He paid like $30 for it. No t-shirt, but that's cool. I have it. It's in
That's
storage in
awesome.
Connecticut, but has the Fright Rags logo on it and has Tarman. I just saw Super 7 did the 2 punk rockers. I don't know if you
Yes,
saw, that's
Return of the
dope.
Living Dead.
Are you
Yes.
guys ever gonna do like a Tarman figure or anything? Or is that
I mean, I'd like to if we're able to get the
nice?
category added to our agreement. I mean, if Super
Sure.
Seven's already doing it, which they might be, then they might not let us do it because
Yeah, I got you.
they have the rights to do that. But
Sure.
if it's available at some point, I'd love to do it. I mean, we've been doing some figures here and there. That'd be fun.
Yeah, all the Tarman. I actually last night looked on eBay, and all the Tarman stuff you can find is like $300 to $500. You can't find anything cheaper, or there's just like people make one-offs for $100, which
Right.
is cool, respect.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would love to see whether it's you or Super 7 or NECA, whoever. Like, there's a lot of great companies out there, but my heart, and I know why now after getting to know you, Ben, is like I've been a Freight Rags guy like through and through. And it shows like your heart, your Halloween spirit, like, and you're just a good embodied spiritual human being. So now I get it. I get it. So I see you, my friend, and I honor you and I appreciate your time. I really hope you enjoy the book when you're able to take a look at it or
Yeah,
continue. If you feel inclined to write something that means so much, if not, no harm, no foul. But that's the thing. I only want words that mean something, like,
sure.
so hopefully though it resonates and hopefully this was an opportunity for you to get to know me a little bit. And like it or not, I now consider you a friend. I'm
Same,
going
man.
to gift you my books. I'll message you. I'll email you when we're off. I'll get your address so I can
Cool.
send you some stuff. And this has been a real pleasure, man. I had a really stressful week last week. I work as the operations manager outside of writing books and doing the last run of edits at a very special place called Saluna Wellness. I do case management, I do meditation, and it's been a rough week.
Mm,
Um, so I needed this. So thank you for your patience and rescheduling. And this
of
is a
course, yeah.
great way to start my week because I was off yesterday. So thank you, man. From California to Rochester. You're in Rochester now?
Yep, that's
Yeah,
right.
love to you in Rochester. I know it's Buffalo, but like Snapcase, like
Hmm.
East Coast Hardcore, Earth Crisis. I grew up on that stuff. Hate Booth,
Nice.
Connecticut. So played with them, shared the stage with them, good dudes. And yeah, man. So thank you very much, Ben. I will get this recording. I'll do the video edits. It'll probably be out in June. I wish it'd be closer to Halloween, but hey, whatever. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a Halloween resurrection vibe because nobody needs that. I don't
Right.
think it'll have that vibe. I think our mutual love and respect of Halloween and horror and just being human is shown in this. So
Agreed.
thank you, man, for taking the
Thank
time. And
you.
thank you for all the awesome stuff you put in the world. It really does bring smiles to people's faces and it brings us together. So, and thank you, horror. Thank you, John Carpenter, Nick Castle, like Rob Zombie, Danny McBride, David Gordon Green, Jamie Lee Curtis. Thank you. Like, you guys like make a difference in the world. So, as to
100%.
you, Ben, and the team at Fright Rags I've never met, please extend my gratitude. Like, you
Will
guys have
do.
brought many a smile to my face.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you having me on here. It was a great chat.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we'll do it again sometime for sure. I'll keep you posted too on the book launch. It'd be cool if you and your family like could chime in for a minute and just like have
Sure. Yeah,
have you share a little bit, like just show you.
absolutely.
Maybe I'll order some figures or something. We'll do a giveaway or something. I don't know. It'll be
Yeah,
fun.
happy.
Do you have any
Yeah.
new Halloween stuff coming out this year? I'm guessing you do.
Plenty.
Okay, that's
Plenty.
what
So
I
yeah,
figured.
we can, plenty of it.
Nice. All right, wallet. All right, bank. All right, Ben, it's been a pleasure. I will talk to you soon.
Sounds
And
good.
if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, my friend. Talk to you later.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye-bye.